Almighty God, we pray for your blessing upon this council. Help and prosper its work for the advancement and benefit of its people, so that peace and happiness, unity and justice may be established among us all. Amen. Manningham Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners of lands and waterways now known as Manningham. Council pays respect to elders past, present and emerging and values their ongoing contribution to enrich and appreciate the cultural heritage of Manningham. Council acknowledges and respects Australia's First Peoples as traditional owners of lands and waterways across country and encourages reconciliation between all. Manningham Council also values the contribution made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. Welcome everybody. I welcome the members of the public that have joined us in person and online to observe tonight's proceedings. I would like to advise that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event your voice or image is broadcast by Council. Council meetings tonight are conducted in accordance with our governance rules. I will introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda, calling it by number and by reading the title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder of a motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendation in the report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. I would like to draw your attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, public question time, which provides people with an opportunity to ask questions of the council. Council has allocated 30 minutes for question time at tonight's meeting, and the process for public question time is set out in our governance rules. Questions must be received prior to the start of the meeting to be asked. Where we receive advance notice of a question in accordance with our governance rules by 5 p.m. yesterday, we will provide a verbal response to the question at our meeting. Questions we receive today up to 7 p.m. may be taken on notice if we don't have the information at hand to provide a meaningful response. If this happens, you will be provided with a written response to your question within 10 working days. I will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any one issue. You'll be asked to come forward to the lectern to ask your question, where you'll have the opportunity to provide a 2-minute introductory statement before asking your question. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these additional questions in writing to Council through the normal channels. To ensure the efficient conduct of our meeting and maximum participation during question time, all questions and answers shall be as brief as possible and no discussion is permitted on any question. Councillors and the gallery are reminded that question time is to be conducted in a respectful manner and any disorderly conduct will be managed in accordance with our governance rules. Item number 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. So, councillors, I have received an apology from Councillor Laura Mayne for this evening's meeting. Are there any other apologies or requests for leave of absence?
Madam Mayor, I am seeking a leave from my councillor duties as I have been pre-selected as a candidate for the seat of Warrandyte at the upcoming by-election. I request a leave of absence from council for the period of the 4th of August 2023 through to the 27th of August 2023 inclusive. Having advised the Mayor, councillors and CEO of my leave arrangements, I give assurance that I will respect the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020 and the Councillor Code of Conduct during this period. I would also like it recorded in the minutes that I will forego my councillor allowance during this period of leave. I also note that a vote is cast on my request for leave and I will leave the room for the vote as I have a conflict of interest in voting for myself in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lightbody. You may leave, yes. So, do I have a mover for Councillor Lightbody's leave of absence?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move that Council grant a leave of absence to Councillor Thomas Lightbody for the period of 4th of August to 27th of August 2023, inclusive.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have a seconder?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. All those in favour? Thank you, and that is carried unanimously. Can I ask an officer to bring Councillor Lightbody back into the chamber? Thank you, Councillor, and that was supported. Item number 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. So I note Councillor Lightbody declared a conflict of interest in the previous item. Councillors, would anyone else like to give a notice of conflict of interest? None received. Item number 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover?
Madam Mayor, I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 27th of June 2023 be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kleinert. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item number 5, presentations, and we don't have any presentations tonight. Item number 6, petitions, and there are no petitions for tonight. So item number 7, public question time. So we have received a number of questions for tonight's council meeting. As I said earlier, anyone submitting a question to council has the opportunity to read out their question or can choose to have their question read out by our CEO. Our first question is from Kevin Granger and Dean Hurlston on behalf of Council Watch Incorporated. I don't see Kevin or Dean in attendance, so I'll ask the CEO to read the question.
Thank you, Mayor. And the question is, can Council please advise the dollar amount of cost shifting from state government they estimate they incurred in the 2022-2023 financial year?
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to ask John Gorst, our Chief Financial Officer, to reply, please.
$13 million.
Short and sweet. Thank you, John. Okay, that was $13 million. Okay. Didn't even have time to pour my water. Thank you, John. Okay, well, our next questions are from Gary Seganek. Gary, would you like to come to the lectern? And again, you have 2 minutes to make an introductory statement before asking your questions.
Thank you, Council. If the Council prioritised safety, it wouldn't have pushed so hard to get rid of the safe and well-designed divided carriageway entrance from High Street into Macedon Square to replace it with a design with unarguably higher risks of accidents. If the Council prioritised safety, they wouldn't have pushed so hard for a plan that congested our very busy centre, making it more dangerous. Look at your car park, so much space. If the Council prioritised safety, they would remove the brick pavers that are problematic by their existence because of the mortar spaces, and these are bricks, not pavers. A temporary fix is a band-aid on an open wound. They have been issues for years. If the Council prioritised small businesses, they would have sought a business plan for their flawed plan. I could go on all night. If a developer wishes to come into the area within the law and develop existing retail space, we probably wouldn't have a problem with that. But any plan that involves taking our safe, open road and car spaces to favour a developer and council's profits ahead of community safety and the viability of the overwhelming majority of businesses, we strongly oppose it. The council has not shown that they prioritise safety in small businesses. To quote again the Mayor in the Warrandyte Diary, we weren't prepared to compromise. We agree that's a true statement. Remember, the council started this flawed process, and then you attacked me for exposing it and for pushing back and defending businesses in the centre and standing up for the community's safety. And safety, we do not have a problem to prioritise. No to narrowing Macedon Road, keep Macedon Square safe. As I said before, that's our slogan. I think you should probably all go back and read the Walensky report from 1987, but I'm probably the only one here that knows about that. Thank you very much. Question 1. The council has not included us in the small amenity and safety upgrade as it should. Will you make sure we are shown the proposed plans in the next 2 days?
Thank you, Gary.
Question
For that, I'll just get Rochelle Quattrocchi, Director of City Services, to respond to your first question before you ask the second question.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Gary, for your question. Improving and maintaining the safety and amenity of our local shopping centres is a priority for us. Our council plan demonstrates our commitment to enhancing our activity centres and supporting traders to ensure thriving local businesses, as well as supporting community accessibility and safety. We are implementing a program of minor works, and this includes maintenance work across the shopping centre, similar to what we're undertaking within other local centres within Manningham, to ensure that they're safe, accessible and amenable destinations for our users. Bollards have been recently installed at Macedon Square to improve pedestrian safety. This is among a number of works that we're carrying out as part of that maintenance program. We will soon start works to fix broken and uneven pavement and footpaths and replace cracked concrete curbing. We will also remove and replace a small number of trees where applicable, where there are tree roots that are damaging concrete curbs. Bollards have been installed, as I'd mentioned, and we're working through the details of the further program. More information is provided to traders and the community about the maintenance work over the next few weeks and months. Officers will shortly be sending out the communication to traders as an update. Thank you.
Ask your second question, Gary.
Can the council guarantee there are no proposed plans to facilitate a developer to build apartments in Macedon Square Shopping Centre, utilising our road and car park due to the change in zoning laws? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask Duncan Turner, the Director of City Planning, to respond.
Thank you, Mr Siganek, for your question. Council undertook extensive and transparent community consultation to inform the preparation of the Livable City Strategy 2040, which outlines a vision and framework for managing the future growth across Manningham. The approach aligns with state government planning policy, Plan Melbourne, and the planning scheme which promote housing opportunities in and around activity centres. The Commercial 1 zone, which has applied to neighbourhood activity centres across Manningham since 2014, is a standard state government zone provision and allows for mixed uses including retail, office, business, entertainment, community and residential development. Residential development proposals would be subject to planning application consideration and would need to demonstrate that they are complementary to the function and scale of the particular activity centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan, and thank you, Gary. Our next questions are from Helen Jersevich. Helen is not in the room, so I'll ask the CEO to read her questions.
Thank you, Mayor. And there are two questions from Helen. Question one is, why has Council outsourced this community service, that being community transport, to EV community transport when the trial community bus service by Council was deemed successful? And what is to become of the buses vehicles purchased by council? And the second question is outsourcing the community bus services a cost-cutting measure by council and also absolving council of the control of costs their senior residents have to pay for after the 12-month transition period?
So thank you to Helen for her question. I will ask Lee Robson, our Director of Connected Communities, to provide a response.
Thank you, Helen, for your question and for your ongoing advocacy and interest in ensuring community transport is available and affordable for our older residents. I'm thrilled to announce that EV community transport will commence next Monday to provide community transport to the existing clients of our transport service, and they will expand as they get established in the service to include new clients. The contract provides increased benefits for our residents. Firstly, EV community transport is a specialist community transport provider, and they have access to resources that council does not have. They are a Commonwealth Home Support Program provider. That means it opens up opportunities for residents to access transport which can be subsidised by the Commonwealth Government. Council has never been funded by the Commonwealth for transport, so this is an important improvement to benefit our residents. Secondly, under the contract, EV will also be providing at least 9 social outings per year open to older adults right across Manningham. This will commence in October this year. This is an improvement to the service as council was not able to do this under our own management. Thirdly, EV will be able to transport residents in a one-on-one capacity to medical appointments, which has not previously been widely provided to our residents, and this will be a valued service improvement. Council's 3 buses are being leased to EV so that the service can continue straight away, and the buses are co-branded. In summary, the contract arrangement with EV represents increased value for money to council and enhanced opportunities for our older residents to access community transport. And with question 2, the contracting of the community bus service is in no way a cost-cutting exercise. The existing budget for community transport is being diverted to the contract arrangement, and council will see increased value for this same investment that it's already been providing, especially with more opportunities for outings and the medical appointment transport. We expect that a large proportion of bus users will be able to be assessed for eligibility for the Commonwealth funding, thereby providing a cheaper service for those users. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Lee. And thank you, everyone, for the questions. Item number 8, admission of urgent business. There are no items of urgent business. Item number 9, planning permit applications. There are no planning permit applications that require a decision of council this month. Item number 10, city planning, 10.1, North East Link and transport advocacy update. Do I have a mover?
Madam Mayor, I move as on the paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon, thank you. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I rise to talk about this particular project that's going on in the, I suppose, the most eastern part of our municipality. This is a major state project, and you say, well, why are we talking about it here at council? And that's because it has a great effect on Manningham of what is going on that project. We have had, over a period of time, a lot of involvement, not as the deliverers of the project, but I suppose people working in partnership with the project occurring because it is going through, and we're really an advisory capacity, an information capacity, and there's a statutory capacity that we involve ourselves with, like if we have to close a street or whatever, we're working in good cooperation with the people from NELP. And that's been quite important because through our work with them, we have been able to make a number of gains on things throughout this project. We can talk about, I suppose at the start, we talk about the very first thing was we actually were complaining about the tree, the big tree, the big gum tree, and that actually, amazingly enough, in all of the things has actually been saved on that particular site and the road rerouted. But for more other things, I suppose it took away, this project did take away a number of great facilities that we have in Manningham, of Bulleen Park and bicycle track and areas around the area, that open area, and took away a lot of tree cover in our area. So we have got a number of things, and it's through council and council officers and working in cooperation that we are going to be getting those new soccer facilities down in Bulleen on the Yarra there. We're going to get new ovals for Australian rules football at Bulleen Park. We're going to we have already got, and it's open, the park and ride facility down in Bulleen that's routing buses through there, and that is going to, when the freeway is finished, reroute it again, and it'll be running through there and not the way onto the intersection and onto the freeway as it is at the moment. We've had a great deal of development with input into what's going to happen into the future Doncaster Park and Ride. And so the officers have been working at length in cooperation with that design facilitation, because when plans for landscape plans or for stacks or for anything else comes out, our officers are there giving feedback into what we believe should be happening in those particular occasions. We've been quite involved in a whole lot of the early works program as well, in that we were sort of saying, hey, listen, you're putting this, we've got to put a drain through there, but we've got an open area of Coonung Creek that we want to keep as a bit of a creek, and those inputs have been not listened to in 100%, but we've actually had our input into there to get it. So we've also spent a lot of time working with the former industrial area of Bulleen, and that has been a devastating effect on the people that did have businesses there. They've lost their businesses. Some of them are out somewhere else, and some of them have just been disbanded. But council played a very important role in that particular time of the NOC project, in that we were facilitating communication and trying and assisting and helping the people who were moving out. They did have to move out. We had no control over that, but we did help those businesses throughout that period. And the other thing that is important about that area down there is that into the future we're putting impact into what we believe should be happening into that area after NELP have moved out. After they've moved out with the manufacture or the building of the East Link, there's going to be land there. And we really need that in Manningham. We're wanting that to be actually employment land, or land where people can have a business. We don't know, we're not demanding what sort, but it's not going to be returned to council. That land is a state government land, but we do want to have a good impact, and there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with regard to that. Talked about all of that. We're in, at the moment, there are a couple of packages, and one of the packages is, I suppose, the interface. It's the actual construction, it's a tunnel. We've had input into a lot of things there, but also it's areas of where the interchange goes then onto the Eastern Freeway, and especially at Estelle Street. And there's a lot of campaign and work done with regard to seeing if they do need to widen it the freeway as much as they do at that particular spot, because the devastating effects on the residents of Estelle Street, where those walls are going to be very close. So I could go through the whole report. It's really good to have it here in black and white of what we've been doing. And with that, I will ask you to support the tabling of this, I suppose, very important report. And if the community want to read what we're doing into that, it's really summarised in this report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gough. Well summarised. Councillor Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak. I'd just firstly like to thank the officers for putting together such a comprehensive report on all the things that we've been involved with over the last 6 years, I think. It's probably nearly 7. I remember the first time this came up, we had to make a vote on on the route on ABC or D, ABCD. I had to call a conflict of interest on that because one of those routes went straight past my house. But anyway, that's a long story. But what I again going back to the input that we've had and just reinforcing what Councillor Goff has said, and we have been very active in promoting our communities. I guess our communities' needs. Well, I was thinking of another word like a interest. I'd say community interest throughout the project. And I remember, I think Andrew Day, when he first started, I happened to be mayor, and when we put it to Andrew, well, if we can show something to North East Link about what those soccer field or what the driving range could look like, and we might get there. And so, voila, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, our officers had a drawing of what it could look like, went to the North East Link, and they sort of said, yeah, that looks good. and we've obviously done, that's going to be a great community asset in the future. So I think, yeah, being that proactive, being very proactive in terms of promoting the community interest throughout the project, and in no small part, as I said, it's not just the officers who have prepared this report, but the officers have been doing the legwork. The officers were down there talking to the businesses down at the industrial precinct, trying to navigate through that, in probably a hostile environment a lot of the time, I think, but trying to do the best for our businesses and not take the government line of, well, this just has to happen. So again, yeah, great work from Frank, Liz, and the rest of the team. So I don't think I've got much more to add, but yeah, I think it's great. And I do note that we will have a report in 12 months to see how we're going. And I think it's a good thing to keep North East Link, keep the community advised about what we're doing, what the North East Link is doing, and what we are, I guess, all the concerns and how they're being met. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have other speakers for the motion? Councillor
Madam
Lane.
Mayor, may I please ask a question?
Yes, of course.
My question is, has there been any developments on the North East Link project through the independent audit reports?
Thank you, Councillor Lang. I'm going to ask Duncan Turner, Director of City Planning, to respond.
Thank you, Councillor Lang, for your question. Just for context, an independent auditor is required to be engaged to ensure that the North East Link project complies with its environmental performance requirements. And those audits are undertaken every 6 months. However, the reports themselves are not publicly released until some months later. Last Thursday, so the 20th of July, the most recent independent auditor's report summary was released, and that the auditor was ARUP Oricon, and it related to the period from May to October 2022 for the tunnels package, and that was published online. The report itself is actually dated the 14th of March 2023. So the audit does highlight areas for improvement with the implementation of environmental strategies and management plans, and most notably, the auditor found non-compliance with air quality and monitoring during that review period.
Thank you, Duncan, and thank you, Councillor Lang. Do we have any other speakers to the motion, councillors? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is the first time this council's had an opportunity to consider a report on the North East Link. I know that in the previous council, barely a meeting went past where you weren't dealing with the Supreme Court actions and all the analysis leading into the project. And obviously this council, since being elected at the end of 2020, it's been more on the delivery side of the project. And the model we've adopted has been deep engagement at the officer level, and I think it's been a really constructive relationship where our officers have been able to provide input and feedback, whether it was selection of community grants, design of soccer facilities, the 417 traffic management plans that we've issued or approved as part of the rollout of the project. So this is a very useful report, just informing the community and council as to a sort of a status report of where we see things are at. I mean, this is the biggest infrastructure project in Victorian history. It's incredibly sensitive, coming out near the Yarra, near residential area, and the largest elimination of a business precinct in Victorian history. So there's massive impacts on Manningham. I think it is good. I know it's not all detailed in the report, but it's good to hear that more than 80 of those affected businesses in the Bulleen industrial precinct have successfully relocated and continued operating. I think which is a good outcome, considering that there hasn't been that many that simply closed their doors forever. It's sort of almost slightly ironic that the last surviving business that's yet to close their doors is the Wholesome concrete plant, because they're supplying concrete to the project. So they've been given a stay of execution to continue serving up the concrete that will finish them off. The report does note that we have been advocating, and we did receive a sort of not an undertaking, but through the Supreme Court settlement, an agreement that studies will be done into the potential upgrade of Templestowe Road, which the report notes will cost $55 million, and there hasn't been much progress in that in terms of commitment, and that we will continue to advocate strongly for that bolt-on project, if you like. So very much looking forward to the soccer facility opening early next year. That will be a terrific addition to the community sport. I'd like to thank the officers who've been so deeply involved, from Liz Lambropoulos, Frank Basilikis, Duncan Turner, Rochelle Kotoki, and the CEO, and a whole range of other officers. It's a very deeply engaged process. As we'll discuss shortly, there has been a disappointing development in terms of the audit report on the air quality coming from the project, and we'll obviously be looking for that to be addressed. But in terms of this particular item, the update report, it's very good data. It summarises the issues, the impacts, and our involvement, and I think it's good that the motion proposes a similar report come within 12 months to the open chamber for a further update and discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Do I have any other speakers to the motion? So, Councillor Goff? Just Councillor Goff, your mic, please.
I'm Jeff.
Councillor Goff. Oh, goodness me.
Sorry.
Dad jokes everywhere.
Listen, with regard to that question, in light of that non-compliance identified by the auditor, I just want to let you know that I envisage to, once this is voted on, to move a supplementary motion.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Noted. So I will put this motion to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Councillor Goff, your supplementary.
Madam Mayor, my supplementary motion is that Council requests the Mayor to write to the Minister for Transport and Infrastructure to seek assurances on how the project will address air quality non-compliance identified now and into the future, particularly noting Manningham Council's ongoing concerns about the air quality from the proposed tunnel ventilation stacks.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. I'll allow that. Do I have a seconder for that supplementary motion? Thank you.
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the supplementary motion?
Madam Mayor, at the moment, I think it's important that we actually engage with the North East Link and the people that are building that as to the efficacy and the shortfallings in air quality around that area, given that we were given assurances by the Minister that a certain standard would be reached, and obviously that's not being reached with what's occurring at the moment. Now, just till the night, I did hear about people talking about dust as a problem from there, and that really is unacceptable as well. But it's the whole air quality around the air, and I think it's important that we actually get onto this and get, I suppose, to a table to know that on behalf of our community, we're not happy with them not living up to what was set out by the Minister as the requirements that were required to build.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the supplementary motion?
Yes, thank you. Not very much because Councillor Goff has already done so, but I just support the fact that we are investigating this air quality non-compliance, because if I can draw us back to one of our advocacy items with North East Link, one of our advocacy items on behalf of our community was to ensure during the construction impacts that there was minimal noise, traffic and disruption, and there was no adverse impact on the community and the amenity during that duration. So therefore, if we're wanting to not be negatively impacting the amenity during construction, and then we have this non-compliance, we do need to seek some clarification and investigation. So I do support this supplementary motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have any speakers against? Do I have any other speakers for? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Yes, I guess the only point I wish to make is that we've had a very good relationship with the North East Link and the project generally in terms of the sharing of information and the cooperative sort of engagement. So I am a little bit disappointed that a report dated March the 14th on a very sensitive issue of a non-compliance in terms of air quality imposed by the Minister on the project has only come to light on July 20. I would have thought on something as sensitive as breaches of air quality standards, there'd be an escalation and a ventilation of the facts to us and to the community. So I hope that in terms of when we seek this urgent engagement with the Transport Minister, that not only do we seek assurances on hopefully what mitigation has already been put in place since the report was filed on March the 14th, but also more timely updates to us and the community about if there are any other future breaches of environmental performance standards that were agreed by the government with the contractors at the start of the project.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Good point that you've made there. Do I have any other speakers to this motion? I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. And thank you, Councillor Goff, for raising the supplementary motion. So I'll move on. Item 10.2, Planning Reform Update. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Thomas Lightbody. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have to say that people from around the world have chosen to make Victoria home, and most of them in Melbourne. By 2051, Victoria will be home to around 3.7...
Excuse me, Councillor Chen, is your microphone on? Oh, it is, it's just not lit up. My apologies. Continue. It's just the red light at the top's not working. My apologies for interrupting you, Councillor.
That's all right. Want to stress the importance of the figures.
Yes.
By 2051, and Victoria will be home to around 3.7 million more people than today, with 3.1 million of people in Melbourne to call Melbourne home. And to address the population growth and housing affordability, there is a bold plan being considered by the state government to help squeeze 1 million extra homes into Melbourne suburbs by 2050, with local councils to be cut from major planning decisions to increase density. But seizing control of planning laws will not fix the state's housing problems. There is shortage of town planners across all levels of government. This is definitely contributing to housing supply issues. One council is said that their strategic planning team has been operating with 50% vacancy for several years, leading to a backlog of about 500 applications. Just imagine that impact. Other factors include the high cost of materials, a lack of construction workers, and climbing interest rates. Developers are holding off on building bigger projects due to the construction costs. Apart from those factors, the current planning scheme runs smoothly. Take Manningham as an example. Manningham has a forward land use planning agenda to ensure that Manningham planning scheme is clear and concise. Currently, only about 2% of planning applications lodged are refused. Manningham also has a clear and effective strategy for managing residential growth. Our planning scheme review 2022 identified that Manningham planning scheme is operating efficiently. We even go further to make 25 recommendations to make our planning scheme even better. Council is commencing a residential strategy and neighborhood character study refresh to review the existing residential framework. And this is also include a housing demand and capacity analysis, population forecast up to 2036, and the associated demand for housing type and locations. Just imagine all those things that we are already reviewing and refresh and for better. Under the current Planning and Environment Act, Council is both the planning authority and the responsible authority. Councils are well placed to understand their community demands and expectations for land use and development. Although the Minister of Planning has indicated that there has been no decision on planning reform and that councils will be engaged in the consideration. But the impact of state government's planning reform to increase housing supply could have significant impact on council and the community. Manningham Council needs to continue work in collaboration with the Eastern Regional Group of Councils and the MAV, that is Municipal Association Victoria, to coordinate advocacy efforts in response to the proposed and potential state government planning reform. Thank you. So I just want to ask our councillors to support the recommendation listed in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Lightbody, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank Councillor Chen for everything she's just said about this motion. This motion and report have come up, so as background, a few meetings ago, I asked a question for statistics about our planning data, and that was in response to sort of discussions and rumours that the state government's reforms were looking at removing councils from a certain group of planning decisions, and also in doing that implicating us in the housing supply issue. And I think the statistics in this indicate that as a council, and as for Manningham at least, where a council that has supported in the past financial year 92% of applications, as Councillor said, 2% of planning applications that were lodged were refused, and of the 806 decisions that were made during the 22-23 period, only 22 appeals were lodged of our Manningham decisions, and of that, only 6 of them were overturned at VCAT. So out of the 806 decisions that were made, VCAT only overturned 6 of those decisions, which is a very, very small number of decisions that were made. I'd like to finish up just by asking a question to the officers, if that was okay. So in the statistics that we have here, we have a net total number of dwellings approved, but I was wondering if the data was available, if an officer could let us know how many of the dwellings approved were regarded as affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll ask Duncan Turner, Director of City Planning, to respond.
Thank you, Councillor Lightbody. I do have some information that form part of our review of the Affordable Housing Policy and Action Plan, which covers the period from 2010 to 2020, so a 10-year period. Across 6 projects, so 6 applications, there was a total of 128 affordable housing dwellings approved. I must note that that did include a project on Tram Road in Doncaster operated by Haven Homes Safe, which included 98 dwellings, which was quite a significant contribution to that 128 in total.
Thank you, Duncan. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have other speakers for the motion? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, so I think this is a really important report, and I'm really pleased with the data in the report showing how efficient we are in processing applications and sensible we are in terms of when we choose to object. Our win rate, as mentioned by other speakers at VCAT, is good, and we approve 98% of applications that come in. The reduction in the number of applications that have been coming in recent years is actually a bit of a worry from an economic development point of view. And I agree with Councillor Chen that the bigger issue right now in terms of lack of housing development is, I believe, is more the construction cost, economic viability of existing permits, not the lack of permits or the pipeline of permits. But look, it is a bit of a worry. The sector is very concerned. The Premier just earlier this week was quoted saying that, quote, everything is on the table in terms of what he's looking at in terms of planning reform and delivering housing, and that he'll announce something in, quote, a couple of months. So we've put our best foot forward here with our data, standing up for the fact that we are a very efficient and effective planning authority and responsible, and requesting that the MAV get involved as a high-level advocacy group directly inputting into this process that the government is driving at the moment. In terms of memories of past issues like this, in 2010, we voluntarily at Manningham handed over our planning powers for Doncaster Hill. First, I think it was called a Designated Activity Centre at the time at DAC. And it was the first in Melbourne where a 3-person expert panel was going to decide major applications on Doncaster Hill. Then there was a change of government and it got abolished about 6 months later. As a City of Melbourne councillor, we had to live with the government having authority over anything above 25,000. And it was out of control for a while there. And the way we dealt with that was we pretended we were the authority on everything above 25,000 and would do approvals and write delegates' reports and put our hands in the air just to write a letter to the minister, effectively. And then we pressured the minister, Mr Guy, to release all the delegates' reports to see what the officers were saying about these massive developments, where the council was just totally sidelined and the government or the minister was making all the decisions. My final point, I guess, is to urge the government to hasten slowly on this. I'll never forget when the Brumby government just went bang and approved, I think it was 10, 12 Masters stores in one go, hardware stores, as a post-GFC economic development. Let's get things moving. Just totally sidelined, a dozen councils went bang, here's a permit, Woolworths, for 600 million or whatever it was, some big number. And, you know, they weren't well designed, they weren't well located, they went broke in the end, you know. Sometimes it just doesn't work. So I hope that the government doesn't do anything
Councillor,
rash.
time.
I'm done. It's time.
You got in the rash. Any other speakers to the motion? I will put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 10.3, Residential Strategy Refresh Project Plan. Do I have a mover?
Madam Mayor, I move the motion, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Councillor Stephen Mayne, thank you. Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think considering our previous motion discussions, this motion is probably timely. The residential strategy refresh is based on our Manningham residential character map of 2023. Its objectives are to refresh our Manningham residential strategy, which is aimed at providing that policy framework to meet existing and future housing needs within our municipality, while setting new goals for managing our residential growth. It is a state government directive that we are planning for population growth up until 2036. Therefore, this refresh, including the Manningham character refresh, requires us to review our existing policies and frameworks. It also incorporates any Manningham planning scheme transitions, and we have transitions from the Manningham planning scheme to the planning policy framework as part of the Amendment C133 in January 2023. This refresh also aligns with our state government directives in the Plan Melbourne policy of 2017 to 2050, aligning in directing population growth around our activity centres, main roads, and providing housing choice in areas that are well located to transport and services. The refresh has had a look at our policies, and I am pleased to report that a whole-scale review is not necessary. We are performing well. But through the Livable City strategy, we did find some gaps in housing demand and categorising our neighbourhood characters. So there will be 2 stages of community consultation through this draft process, but I think it's important for us to actually outline what those project drivers are. So I will read them to you, councillors. It's strengthening our neighbourhood character of our municipality, looking at canopy tree planting and landscapes. It's having that spatial application of our neighbourhood zones. It's looking at better design for our multi-dwelling developments. It's looking at detailed design, so there is a sustainable principles in our designs. It's protecting our open space and overshadowing. It's also investigating areas for review and the preparation of our urban design frameworks for our activity centres. So as part of the neighbourhood character study, we are looking at our character areas and trying to come up with 10 neighbourhood character precincts, because I don't know about you, you councillors, but we all know that Manningham is desirable to live in. It has that perfect balance of city and country. We all know that it is our goal that they are inviting places and spaces. And so I say, let's get on with the process, and let's make sure that our neighbourhoods are well designed and meet our community needs.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Stephen Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Any other speakers for the motion? Then I will put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Item 11, Connected Communities. 11.1, Welcoming Cities Progress Report. Do I have a mover?
That the recommendation be adopted, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. And do I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll stand again. Look, this report is a progress report, so it's a bit of a snapshot of what we've been doing as a welcoming city. We continue to deliver our council and community vision, that Manningham is a peaceful, inclusive and safe community where we celebrate life with its diverse culture, wildlife and natural environment. We are resilient, we value sustainability and healthy living, and we want everybody to have a sense of belonging and respect for one another. I am pleased to report, as part of our Welcoming City Framework, which we were accredited in 2021, we have progressed projects in this area to meet our vision. This report details some of those projects and looks at our objective that we really want Manningham to be a welcoming and inclusive community, especially for our multicultural, refugee, migrant populations and First Nations communities. Some of the key achievements in this area is the establishment of the Multicultural Communities Advisory Committee, the establishment of a calendar of significant events and also dates so that we can celebrate those, the implementation of an anti-racism project, and also the establishment of a Manningham Inclusive Language Guide. Can I just remind us of some of those events and some of those significant dates? So during National Sorry Day 2022, we hosted a multicultural community event where it was for our multicultural communities to better understand our First Nation culture and practices. It was well attended and very valued by all those who were there. We also hosted at MC Square Gallery the Unfinished Business exhibition. For Reconciliation Week 2022, we hosted another gallery called the Service Country exhibition. For NAIDAC Week in both 2022 and 2023, we did community awareness posts. In Harmony, for Harmony Day 2022 and 2023, we did internal staff events, and one in particular on the International Day of Elimination of Racism and Discrimination. And we also hosted, in conjunction with the Mental Health Foundation of Australia, a Mental Health Wellbeing and Multicultural Communities Expo, where we were sort of breaking down that stigma of mental health in our multicultural communities. We've also done some things internally where we've looked at inclusive symbols, a universal inclusive training for staff, and we've also looked at an accessible and inclusive language guide. With all of that, councillors, we've also endorsed a reconciliation action plan, and we've progressed two things in our anti-racism project. We've had a Harmony celebration in collaboration with our Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Council, and we've also done the Racism Not Welcome street sign campaign, which we participated in and has concluded now. This campaign of street signs acknowledges the existence of racism, it validates people's lived experiences with racism, and it engages people in the conversations of racism. Yes, the campaign did have some negative tone in the wording, but the intention was what was important, and that was to promote a harmonious community where everyone has a sense of belonging through the actions and the objectives of council. There have been many other community-supported events through the support of Eastern Community Legal, amplifying their voices, and also supporting Victoria Police in the prejudice motivation crimes. We've engaged with our community in two forums, like I said, the Multicultural Communities Advisory Committee and also the Manningham Multicultural Network partnership, which is between community and council. This is an informal way for multicultural leaders to engage with council. In all of this, we will be moving forward with an action plan that will go to our Multicultural Community Advisory Committee to progress us as a welcoming city, enabling Manningham to align with being a healthy, inclusive, connective community, and I hope we can endorse this project and the progression report tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kleiner, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, in 60 seconds or less. Welcoming Cities Standards is organised under 6 categories, which, as you've all heard, the leadership, social and cultural inclusion, economic development, learning and skill development, civic participation, places and spaces. I'm really proud that Manningham was one of the first, who were actual equal first, which with a small South Australian shire, I believe, but a first for Victoria. And this is about keeping our, this is a report about us maintaining that welcoming city status, which I think is wonderful. At this point, I just really want to acknowledge the officers' work in this, and having been put through the inclusive language, I believe started with the MDAC, which is the Manningham Disability Advisory Committee, who worked to put that together, and it's been, these things don't come and happen overnight. So I really do want to acknowledge the officers. There's many there, and like them to be acknowledged for their work, because I'm proud we are a welcoming city, and that is Manningham.
Thank you, Councillor. Well said. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I would like to congratulate officers' efforts, enormous effort in supporting our culturally diverse and inclusive community through a range of actions. And I would like to see Manningham continue to use the welcoming city standard and aim to make any meaningful plans to create a more diverse, more inclusive, and more resilient Manningham. Why I say that is because even though we have been working very, very hard, no doubt there is some sectors of our communities still feel lonely, isolated, and excluded. Let me have some examples for councillors. Language barriers, cultural and economic challenges, and limited social ties can contribute to social isolation for migrants. Marginalized groups may routinely face discrimination and stigma. Our older people in our community often live alone. Hearing and vision impairment loss can contribute to their social isolation. So I'm a true believer that regardless of culture, age, gender, sexuality, religion, and ability, Manningham must be a place where everyone can prosper, where every voice is an important voice to council, and where diversity is celebrated. So with that in mind, thank you officers for the great work, but we have to remind ourselves that there is a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Do I have any other speakers to the motion? I will put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. 11.2, Draft Economic Development Strategy. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. And do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is it's a draft 4-year economic development strategy from 23 to 27. It's going out for some targeted consultation between July 27 and August 18. It's a very comprehensive report. I'd encourage everyone to read it, and we've engaged the services of SGS Economics to assist with the production of the report and some of the modelling. In terms of the council's support for the business community, I guess the point to say at the start is that 94% of our rates base is residential. So compared to many councils, we're not a very non-residential local government area. But that doesn't mean, particularly with work from home, that you don't have a very considered and supportive economic development strategy. And the first thing I want to say is that we loudly and proudly do not have a differential rate that charges industry or business more, in a sense, in the dollar sense, than residential. Many other councils do. So we're saying, business, come to Manningham, we won't overcharge you like many other councils do. It's also terrific that we're emerging head office precinct here on Doncaster Hill. John Sling, just the other week, announced to the Stock Exchange they were raising $65 million to buy 2 more national businesses to be run out of Doncaster Hill. We've got Tyre Power here, we've got Hanson here, we've got Nilex here. So we don't just have the best Westfield in Victoria, and the first one outside of New South Wales, but we have this emerging corporate head office precinct as well. The report makes note about developing our nighttime economy, and this is very good. And I increasingly never leave Manningham to go out for dinner, such is the choice. And the local activity centre I want to mention particularly is Jackson Court. It is absolutely booming in the evening with all the diversity of restaurants offering. It's an absolute hive of activity. and it's fantastic, and we want to see more of that in the nighttime economy across Manningham. It's great that we've got a Mercure Hotel on Doncaster Hill. It would be great to get a co-worker hub coming in. Obviously, it's very disappointing we've lost the Bulleen West Industrial Precinct, so our very tiny industrial cohort has become even smaller. And there are other issues I thought I'd just mention, that the question of how well whether we should put council rates into supporting traders associations at local activity centres, I think is important, as well as any capital works that we do at our local activity centres. It's great that we continue to support the Manningham Business Network, and also the report makes some important mention of the Green Wedge, the tourism element. I mean, we've got the diversity, we've got wineries, we've got orchards, we've got nurseries, we've got venues, there's heritage, there's the Heidi Art Gallery. So from a visitation economy point of view, there is quite a diversity on offer in Manningham. So this is a very important area for council. It's an excellent report. I'd like to thank the officers and the consultants for working it up, and look forward to having some targeted consultation, and then before we hopefully endorse the final report a couple of months from now.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Councillor Goff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as was stated, it is going out for consultation. There are a number of things that people that can see this and have a read through and can give feedback to council. And I suppose that's an opportunity that everyone can have. It was a very interesting read to read about your city through the eyes of a scoreboard and somebody else's views of the city. And indeed, one of the things that just jumped out at me was our rate of unemployment is higher than the metropolitan area of the rest of the metropolitan area of Melbourne, which was a very interesting little thing, that we are a percentage or so higher in unemployment. And if you sit back and think of it, and there's a whole lot of things there, and it's from page 82 to 90 of the document, it's got a whole lot of little graphs and things that comes out. And the other one that stood out was, and it doesn't astound me at all, the differentiation between the average income or business operations of factories and income of all of that in other municipalities compared to Manningham. And others are up here and we're right down the bottom. But that's not uncommon for basically a 95% dormitory suburb. And as such, we do have different challenges here in Manningham. And the way in which we can work it, we don't have enclaves of factories, we don't have enclaves of other than Westfield and some of our major shopping centres. We don't have a system that is there that can generate income for council without expenses there. So we do have a lot more challenges here, but we do want to support our businesses. And I suppose that comes down to the guts of this whole report, which is, I suppose, what we're going to do in this projected plan for the next 4 years. On pages 133 to 143, it outlines what we're going to be doing under, I suppose I think it's six different areas or themes that it's all been based on. So with that, I hope people do get through and have a look through it, do have a read of it and get feedback, because as it was said, I think it was September sometime, it's going to be coming back here for endorsement. So thank you very much for all the people. I know that we had some reports that were done, but for all the people that came up with this particular report, and it gives a good insight. It mightn't be 100% accurate on everything, but it gives you a good feel and a good insight for what happens in Manningham. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Any other speakers for the motion? I'll put that to a vote then. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item number 12, City Services. 12.1, Container Deposit Scheme. Do I have a mover?
That the recommendation be adopted, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, the container deposit scheme is actually creating a bit of joy and excitement within the municipality. I know a whole lot of youth that are already collecting garbage bags full of containers, ready to get their 10 cents back for each one. So look, to comply with our Victorian Government recycling Victorian policy, we are to outline the introduction of a 4-bin system and also the container deposit scheme. And it is also our commitment here at Manningham to reduce our waste to landfill. So we are working with Visy to implement the container deposit kiosks throughout the municipality. And we are hoping set to start in November this year, so not far away for all those people who have those garbage bags full of containers ready. Look, the container deposit scheme will help us with our council plan goals, and that is to protect and enhance our environment, it reduce our rubbish impact on our environment, and it's to have sustainable practices that are effective as well as efficient. The Visy have recommended sites within the municipality to council, and we've had to assess them according to their traffic impact, their amenity impact, as well as to make sure they are in line with our council plan. So on that recommendation, we've got 8 kiosks throughout the municipality that have been recommended, and we've also asked council officers to advocate to Visy to service the Wonga Park and the Doncaster East area. The council deposit scheme will help also meet our climate targets, which we hope for council to be net zero emissions by 2028 and net community emissions for 2035. So it's all about reducing litter throughout the municipality. The container deposit scheme, if councillors or community are not aware, is where that you can receive a refund of 10 cents for every eligible container. That could be cans, cartons, bottles, and they could be from 150 ml to 3 litres. It's also a great way to start fundraising. So your charities, your community groups, environmental organisations, educational organisations, they can use this as a way to fundraise. There are sort of 3 ways that they can do that. Residents can choose to have the 10 cents themselves, or they can donate it to one of those charities. Or they could do a collection drive where they all bring it and then they deposit it for the refunds, or there can be collection points. I just want to reassure everybody that the kiosks are acoustic, have acoustic panel to mitigate noise. They will have external lighting. They will have security. They will be daily cleaned, and they are large enough to take about 33,000 containers. The kiosks are about 25 metres squared, which, you know, to us is about 5 car spaces, but they can use corners and areas and garden beds that aren't well used by cars. The capacity of these containers can take about 10,000 containers a day, and then give the refund for those. So I really do look forward to rewarding our residents, our community, and our organisations for recycling. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Of course. Just a little bit of history first. In 1799, a company in Dublin, Ireland, announced the provision of artificial soda water, and that they paid 2 shillings a dozen for returned bottles. So perhaps this is the first container deposit scheme in the world. In Australia, the container deposit scheme first started in South Australia. And because Councillor Lang has already mentioned a lot of details about the very excited deposit scheme, I just want to say that currently Council spend about $500,000 each year on litter collection. And the container deposit scheme will reduce in one of the most littered items, which is beverage containers. I would like to take South Australia again as an example. The return rate in South Australia in 2021 to 2022 was about 77.5% because of the scheme. So beverage containers only now make about 2.8% of the litter because of the success of the scheme. So studies have shown that the container deposit scheme are generally very, very successful in practice. The scheme is beneficial to the community in terms of environment and economic, and also they generate jobs. So they become a commonplace on a global scale. So I asked my fellow councillors' support to this scheme. By way of clarification, I already collected my beverage containers, so I'm looking forward to my 10 cents refund and just to hand over to our beloved charities and organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor, and for the stats. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any other speakers for the motion? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Look, it's very exciting, as the two previous speakers have said. I'm really pleased that we as the council have been so proactive in identifying or offering up sites for the kiosks. And I think the comment at 3.3 that, quote, Visy have requested that they use one of Manningham's site for their first official public launch. That is a credit to the officers and to our proactivity that Visy, one of the three operators, is going to launch, big public launch at one of our sporting centres, so or recreation reserves. Obviously, coming straight up to FOGO, it's all happening in recycling and in waste at the moment. And I just do remember a comment that Malcolm Turnbull made after he left office, when he commented that the plastics industry have really played governments off a break all over the world in deferring and delaying significant interventions to remove plastic waste from the environment, the oceans, the rivers, the community. And this really probably should have happened many years ago. Probably should never have been gotten rid of from we all remember it in the 1970s. But at least we've got back to where we were. It's the right call. There's a lot of plastic to be removed, but it's great that Manningham is working constructively with industry, with the state government program, and I'm really excited to see that highly visible public launch in one of our reserves ahead of the November 1 official launch.
Thank you, councillor. Do I have any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Lightbody.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to speak in favour of the motion. I think this is fantastic. We've had a number of briefings on this, with the most recent one obviously being the most exciting, where we got to see where the locations are going to be. And I think we've done really well in helping facilitate the identification of those locations. Wow. That was I think it's also important to note that when you look at the locations, it does leave a number of gaps throughout the municipality. And it's also important that the community understands that these, in this report, are just the locations that are on our council land and council sites, and that Visy is also working with other landowners of like potential shopping centres for additional locations. And hopefully, in the end, it'll work out so there's good coverage across our municipality. I think it's also really great in here that we're working with 8 other councils, so 9 councils in total, on our contract for these. I think many councils, especially us and our neighbours, are getting quite good at joint procurement, joint negotiations. The biggest one, obviously, is the Vico Power Partnership, which is now over 50 councils. So I think it's really good to show that local government is working together with our neighbouring councils really well to make sure that we're getting the best deal and making the process as simple as possible. So I'd really like to congratulate the officers on all the work they've done on this. I look forward to so we've had all our FOGO stalls up until now. Now we're having our plastic-free stalls. So the community is learning all about waste and how to better manage it. So I'm really excited for that to all continue into the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I will put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 13, experience and capability. 13.1, MAV State Council, October 2023, meeting matters. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon. Thank you. Councillor Chen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. The next MAF State Council meets on Friday, 13th of October, 2023, and councils are invited to submit advocacy motions to the State Council. The proposed motion is about bus network reform, and because there is a widely held perception that Melburnians don't like buses. This is not entirely true. No one likes slow, inefficient buses that don't take them where they need to go or connect seamlessly with trains and trams. But where buses provide direct, frequent, and quick connections to jobs and services, people use them in droves. Most will be surprised to know that over 80% of homes are located within 400 meters of local bus route. Therefore, buses are the closest public transport mode for Melburnians. Transport Minister Ben Carroll, MP, acknowledged the important role of buses in the public transport system and launched the Victorian Bus Plan on 13th of June 2021. To help inform the bus network reform, the DTP undertook consultations in late 2022 for pilot projects in Melbourne's northern suburbs, northeastern suburbs, and Mildura. Manningham is one of the Melbourne municipality. I have to repeat again. Manningham is only one Melbourne municipalities not served by trains or trams, and was among the first areas to have their bus service reviewed. We all know that buses are low-hanging fruit in the transport system hierarchy. They are highly adaptable, requiring no tracks in the ground and working with the infrastructure already in place. Buses have the potential to be more efficient, environmentally friendly, and equitable to any and all city dwellers than cars. Therefore, bus services must be given higher priority among competing transportation options. The proposed motion is to request the Victorian government to deliver actions in accordance with the timeframe committed in the Victorian Bus Plan. Collaborate with councils on the proposed network plans in the bus network reform pilot projects, and more funding to deliver the bus network pilot projects. If the motion is successful, not only Manningham, but other municipalities can benefit from the bus network improvement and resulting in social, economic, and environmental benefits for our society. So I hope that my fellow councillors can support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I think it's, as Councillor Chen has pointed out, buses are really important for Manningham, but also, given that this is going to MAV, and we need their support, they're a critical transport mode for many Victorians, most Victorians. And I actually agree that buses are the future. It's we're spending all this money on roads. Electric vehicles will be the future, and it sort of makes sense that there will actually be more bus travel rather than train travel in the future, because it's because you have fully autonomous vehicles, buses potentially, driving people from point to point where they want to go. So yeah, I think it's really important that the state government actually gets on board and follows through with their commitment to fund the pilot programs that they've mentioned in this report. So yes, I support this and would be happy to support it at the MAV conference.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. State Council. Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have any speakers against the motion? Any other speakers for the motion? I will put that to a vote then. All those in favour? And it's carried unanimously. Item 14, Chief Executive Officer. 14.1, Strategic Risk Register 6-monthly report, June 2023. Do I have a mover?
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Lightbody. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Councillor Lightbody, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Mayne, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Do I have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any speakers for the motion? Shall I just put the motion to a vote? All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 14.2, Appointment of Authorised Officer, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover? Councillor Conlon.
Yeah, I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted.
And do I have a seconder?
I second the motion, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Lang, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam.
I might put that straight to a vote. All those in favour? And that's again carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 14.3, informal meetings of councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Kleinert, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Conlon, would you like to speak to the motion? Anyone like to speak to that motion? For or against? I'm going to put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously once more. Item 14.4, documents for sealing. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted with the addition of the following agreement: council licence, council and MD Health Templestowe Proprietary Limited, property, Part 120A, James Street, Templestowe.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Do I have a seconder for that motion?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Kleinert, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Lang. I will put that to a vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 15, urgent business. There are no items of urgent business. Item 16, councillor reports and question time. So, councillors, I'm going to kick this off. And as we all know, FOGO started from the 1st of July and we've had an intensive and I think fabulous 12 months change program, and even the last few weeks we've had ongoing communications. I would like to ask our Director of City Services to give us an update on how the compliance has been with rolling out FOGO this month.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as quoted by Stephen Mayne just before, it's all happening in waste and recycling. We are now entering into the 4th week of the new Food Organic Green Organic Service, otherwise known as FOGO. The new service allows residents to place food waste in their green bins, and it's one of the easiest and convenient way that as a household you can make a real difference and reduce the impact on the environment. We are seeing signs of significant change. Within the first week, we were seeing that 72% of households were presenting the right bin on the right week. We're now seeing over 97% of households are presenting the right bin in the right week, which is fantastic. So the hard work has paid off over the last 12 months in the campaign that's been run. But I will say, if you're still wanting to find out more, you can look on our website. There's a lot of information available to you. And also you can contact our customer team and speak to one of our friendly waste officers who can also help you navigate your way through. We are well on our way to meeting our target of 20,000 tonnes of waste being reduced going to landfill over the next year, and also we're meeting our climate targets of zero emissions by 2035. So well done to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle, and thank you to the waste team, and thank you also to the residents for coming on board. Councillors, does anyone have a question or want to make a statement? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to commend the government, the Premier and the Gaming Minister, Melissa Horne, for the pokies reform package they announced a couple of Sundays ago. It's the biggest reform package that any state or territory has announced, and it includes everything from moving to cashless, mandatory pre-commitment, reducing the amount you can load up on your machine from $1,000 a time to $100 a time. And I think probably most excitedly is the mandatory shutdowns from 4 a.m. till 10 a.m. So if you look at the 6 venues in Manningham, the Templestowe Hotel runs from 8 a.m. till 4 a.m, so they're going to have to open 2 hours later under this package. The Shopping Town Hotel, 9 a.m. till 5 a.m, so they're going to have to close an hour earlier and open an hour later. The Veneto Club, 9 a.m. till 3 a.m, they're going to have to open an hour later. The Doncaster Hotel, 11 a.m. till 7 a.m. Cherry Hill, 9 a.m. to 5 a.m, the Manningham Club, 9 a.m. till midnight. So at the moment, there's 23-hour gambling in Manningham. The only gambling-free hour when the Doncaster Hotel shuts at 7 a.m. and the Templestowe Hotel opens at 8 a.m, you have 1 hour free from 7 a.m. till 8 a.m. Now you're going to have 6 hours free. And I welcome the fact that Endeavour Group, which owns the majority of the pokies venues in Manningham, has committed to implement this early from August 31. And I call on the Templestowe Hotel and the Veneto Club to match this and also follow the best practice of the Endeavour Group and implement this policy 9 months early on August the 31, like the biggest pokies operator in the country and in Manningham is doing. It was heartening, if you believe in pokies reform, to see that Endeavour Group shares fell 10% on the Monday after this was announced. This is Australia's largest liquor retailer. So for the whole value of the company drop by 10%, that tells you this is a material reform
Councillor,
that will reduce losses by hundreds of millions of dollars, and I have nothing further to say except well done to the government for doing this.
Thank you, Councillor, and to you for your advocacy, including at ALGA. Any other councillors like to make a report or ask a question? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wanting to ask a question about I suppose it becomes local laws and what we're going to do with regard to a situation that I have been reported to by people and have noticed myself with the amount of cockatoos in our environment in Templestowe and everywhere. They are becoming pesty, not only for just the open, but what is happening is they're eating the buds and the new shoots or whatever on the trees, and they're hacking away and chewing away at them. There are trees everywhere in our municipality that these birds are flocking to and going to. I do know that we do have rules about feeding cockatoos, but I'm just wondering if there are any other measures to ensure that the cockatoos don't storm and I suppose, well, it is, you might think it's not important, but farmers throughout Australia through history have had troubles with cockatoos and the damage that they cause, and it is starting to impact on suburban Manningham. So I'm just wondering if we can have a report. The Crows, they're a South Australian footy team, and they don't do the same as the cockatoos. The cockatoos actually eat houses as well. Any wood, if you've got a cedar window and they're around, that can disappear very quickly. So they are quite damaging in our environment. I'm just wanting a report back on what we can do to eliminate the problem of it.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. I'm going to ask our CEO to respond to that.
I won't respond in detail, obviously, councillor. We'll take that on notice and we'll come back to council with some information on that as requested.
Any other questions or reports, councillors? Councillor Chen.
A happy report. And there is some, I'm not sure that whether we councillors are aware of the new signage across Roffey Lake Park. And thank you, our city design team that have installed 58 new signs across the park. That includes 26 wayfinding and 19 welcome signs that also have map. And up to 25 interpretive and heritage signs will be installed early next year. And also there are 5 Roffey Lake Park gateway signs currently being installed. I have received quite a number of positive feedback. And one, I'm not sure that one local resident emailed me and said that, well, congratulations, council, for a job well done. But he said that now there are no one approach him for direction. And he used to, he's a regular visitor, a regular worker at the park, and always being asked by strangers or visitors about direction because they got lost. In a way, they congratulate council. In a way, he just expressed his a little bit lost about not being approached by people asking for direction. But overall, a job well done. But he's very happy about the progress. But anyway, congratulations, a job well done, and very positive feedback from from our community. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Lightbody.
Yes, just speaking about Roffey Lake Park, I think Councillor Chen will remember a few weeks ago, or maybe even last weekend, we both attended the first meeting and launch of a new Chinese senior citizens group within Manningham. It was lots of people there. They met at Roffey Lake Park out on a nice sunny day, which was good compared with a nice cold rainy day the day before, so they picked well. It was attended by so many people, which I think really shows the commitment that the community has to developing community groups and community connections and maintaining them as people age. I understand they're still looking for a more permanent meeting location, and I wish them well in that endeavour and hope that there is good communications between our council officers and them as they continue to look for that place. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor. Any other reports or questions, councillors? Well, thank you for those reports and questions. I will move to item number 17, confidential reports. And there are no confidential reports this evening, so that means that the meeting is now closed. Thank you.